So today I was watching a video about piracy and how it's on the increase. And me personally, I feel that obviously it is corporations are to blame. And not because they're cracking down or putting DRM and everything, digital rights management, for those that you don't know. Basically, it's copyright protection for video games, movies, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they even do it to online books on occasion. The problem with this is that most people don't really understand, and by most people, I mean corporations, is that people want to pay the person, directly pay the person for what they're getting. We're tired of middlemen getting their 2 cents, their 3 cents, 4 cents. We want to pay people directly for what they're providing us. Sure, there's some usage things, there's some things that cause a little snafu, a little confusion at times. Say like YouTube. YouTube has to have its cut, but for the most part, you can pay the creator directly. Of course, YouTube's taking a certain amount of cut because they are hosting all of that. But you don't see people actually pirating YouTube videos. Well, why is that? Because they can pay the creator directly. And it's obviously a successful model. I mean, that's also Twitch, streaming service, not streaming services, but streaming sites where people can stream themselves, like here on Twitch. You can pay the person directly. And no, by no means is this me asking you to pay me. I'm saying that that's why we come here to watch. Because we at least can see the person who's creating. We can at least interact with the person that is creating. We can't do that with TV shows and all of this. Because you can't go directly to what's a show that we'll dredge up ancient past. You can't go to Family Matters. You can't go to MASH and directly pay those people involved in creating it. There's just no avenue for that. And that's what streaming was supposed to be. You go to Netflix and you turn on, some show. And those people are directly getting paid for your views. Well, they've already blown that model out of the water. Now, you're paying for advertising that you don't want. So you have to pay at a higher tier to get rid of the advertising. This literally doesn't make any sense. That people are literally paying more to get rid of advertising. Because those companies are getting paid to advertise. So they're cutting their own throat with advertisers by doing this. If everybody pays to, just like with YouTube Premium, if everybody pays for that, advertisers don't get their shoehorn in. That's dumb. I mean, one, advertising is dumb. If people want a product, they'll find it. They'll look for what they're looking, for what they need. They'll look for what they're looking for. Obviously, that's what they're going to do. And they'll find a product that suits them. The way we look at advertising right now is so backwards that, it's difficult to even understand. I run ads on my channel. I try to make it 3 minutes an hour. That's all you get is 3 minutes of advertising an hour. That's better than TV. I get paid literally pennies for that. Quite literally. I have been doing this for 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, and I barely broached $3. Sure, I don't have a huge view count, but that's okay. That's why, I still keep it up there. It also maintains my ability to get the 55% or 50% or whatever it is share. Are there other websites that do a better share? Yeah. Are there websites that I might be more discoverable? Yeah. But I'm not sure how I feel about the other ones. Kick, Rumble, I can make an argument both sides. But the fact is that I think Twitch has its problems, just like YouTube has its problems. I think that they're the best platform right now. Just in overall general. the idea of going over to Kick, somebody that's paid almost directly by gambling, that you can get these massive lucrative deals if you choose to push gambling. I've worked in a casino. I don't want to do that. So I do my best to control certain things, certain narratives about what I do, how I do it, because I think that's best for the people involved, meaning the people in chat. I don't want to see them going through bad times because of some advertiser. And again, I'll go back to, this is why piracy is on the increase. You have to subscribe to umpteen million things just to get the shows you want, because they're trying to spread it all out. These big corporation bigwigs are trying to do socialized, capitalism. So they don't let anything, concentrate into any one platform. It makes me wonder about the old monopoly rules, and maybe we need to revisit those, because now they're weaponizing the monopoly rules against us, keeping just enough competition so that we're still dependent on them. But there's not really another choice. Or like with streaming, it's like Netflix had the best model, but then they started losing the contracts for the TV shows and they had to be pulled. Okay, so we go back to buying things. Oh, well, we're going to change how buying works. By what we mean as purchase is that you're renting it until we say you can't. Sure, it's a one-time fee, but you're only renting it until we say we're done hosting it for you. And then it's going to migrate over to a different platform, and then you're going to have to pay that. But I bought this. I paid money to own this. Oh, but owning is not what we meant. You're licensing it to stream on this platform. If it ever comes back, you're going to have to pay for it again, most likely. They're migrating the media we want just so they can spread it around. They're literally changing the terms after we've already purchased. And for some reason we can't adhere to that particular contract that we signed, so to speak, when we bought that product. No, we have to go with the newest one that retroactively changes what it meant when I said I bought that. Again, that's why piracy is on the increase. And I'm sure a lot of people don't understand or don't like it, but they don't know what they can do about it. So they start doing something else. Look at the horrible state Hollywood's in. And programming, TV shows. And I mean like traditional CBS, NBC, what have you. YouTubers are getting higher views than Stephen Colbert. I know that Stephen Colbert got, canceled, or his show is getting canceled, not him getting canceled. They released all of the information about his viewer counts and how much it was costing and how many people were on staff. And he had 200 and some odd people on staff. He's losing the company, supposedly, $40 million, but also we know about Hollywood arithmetic. There probably is some shady stuff going on there. Because, you look at some statistics, like David Prowse still hasn't been paid for his time as Darth Vader in royalties because, Return of the Jedi hasn't turned a profit yet. He was told that for years. I'm not sure if it ever happened, if he ever got paid. But that sounds ridiculous. We know that they got paid, but it's Hollywood math. So again, we go back to Stephen Colbert here. He's getting canceled because he's costing the company money, supposedly. I don't really know about that side of it. I don't know what to think about that side of it, to be honest. But the other side is there was 200 employees. There was his salary, which is probably 10 to 15 million a year. And he's only going to 2-3 million people? And he's the best one in that time slot? 2-3 million? I had TV shows that I watched on various different channels that got canceled for having fewer viewers or having more viewers than that. Like sometimes it was 8 million. I think there was a show I was watching, Terra Nova, that was making like 8 million views. And it cost them like $120 million to start the show. But by the time they started the show, they paid for the sets that they had to build. That's an expensive start. But each successive season after that, it's cheaper because you have the sets. So they literally canceled the show at the most expensive time, having a higher viewership than Stephen Colbert, when they would have recouped losses over time. If they had just given it two more seasons, make it a 3-season show, and just have a good arc, they would have made their money back, probably by quite a bit. At least that's my thought process. I mean, I don't have any proof for this, but I mean, you don't go buy a car, drive it for 2 months, decide you want to turn around and sell it. You take it back to the dealership and try and get a trade-in. You're not going to have the money that the car originally cost. That trade-in value is going to be so much less than what you still have to pay on it. That's what's known as being upside down. You owe more than the value. And it takes time to recoup that value. That's why, on average, people like to keep their cars about 5 years, because you pay off the car sometimes, but you now put more money into the car than the car, or so that you can get value back out. That's how that works. So why do people sit here on TV shows, on all this? Why are we paying Stephen Colbert so much money? And yet we're still losing. He's been on the air for 10 years in this show, in this slot? Maybe 9, I don't remember exactly. But he's still losing money. He has a staff of 200. He's supposed to be a comedian, but he has staff writers. How many does he need? And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with union rules and contracts, that he has to have so many. I mean, who knows how much he's actually improvising on there. But, I mean, they still have to set up the skits. They have to set up everything. So, I mean, there is a certain amount that you have to do. But that investment in time and effort isn't being paid off. So a YouTuber who gets, a few 100,000 views is actually more cost effective than Stephen Colbert. They're making more money overall, percentages wise, investment into the property, and they're getting it back out. I mean, YouTubers will try something, or Twitch streamers will try something, and if it doesn't profit, they don't do it again. You have direct access to analytics. Why aren't traditional media using that? Why aren't they? Why? It doesn't make sense to me. It's like totally baffling that shows take police procedural shows. The whole reason why they keep coming back around again is that they're easy to make. The scripts write themselves, because all you have to do is just look in public access for court cases. So all you have to do is just add a little bit of narrative to it. And they're cheap to make because they're just normal city streets. They're a modern society. And everybody likes true crime. For one reason or another, people like to watch true crime in some nature or another. And I don't think people truly understand how easy it is to produce true crime shows, because we don't have as much a barrier to it. Like, okay, if a YouTuber is going to do a true crime, they better have their facts straight. They better have certain things absolutely perfect, because if they don't, they get ridiculed for not having good research. But yet, take CSI, who bases a lot of their shows, their crimes that happen in their shows, on real happenings. They can fudge it all over the place because they're not specifically calling out the case. So this makes it so much easier. So that it's infinitely cheaper to produce. You can use generic apartment number 2 and Any Town USA number 3 for this particular show, and nobody cares. They make money. But Stephen Colbert, who's just a guy standing on a stage, making jokes, doing all of this, is somehow costing the studio $40 million. Is it any wonder why people pirate? I mean, regardless of how you feel about his show, he's getting paid $10 to $15 million for that show. That's costing, apparently, the company money. Yet he still gets his paycheck. That'd be like me. Well, let's go back with the car dealership thing. That'd be like me. I work at a car dealership, but I'm the detail guy. I go in and clean all the cars, doing $5,000 to $10,000 worth of damage per car. Yeah, sure, you can turn around and sell the car more than that, but I'm still costing the company money. Yet they keep me employed. Is it any wonder why we pirate? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. I also happen to agree with a statement that piracy isn't technically stealing, even at the base rules. Online piracy isn't technically stealing because we're cloning the device. We're cloning that show. We're cloning it. We're not stealing it from the original person. We're not taking it out of circulation. If we pirate. I'm not advocating for piracy, please understand, but I'm kind of am. Like, I will take that L is like, look, one, there's no real information on whether piracy has ever cost any of these companies money. I mean, back in the day when piracy, early 2000s, I would pirate a song from an album and go, okay, I do like that album, and go buy the album. I would almost argue that in some cases, piracy actually increases the sales. And all of these companies look at is that they're being pirated, but they're not paying attention to sales from piracy. Which sounds like a misnomer, but I mean, it's not like video games give you okay, well, here's your 20-minute free trial, see if you like our game. No, they give you screenshots, curated screenshots that show you what the game is like. Maybe a video of gameplay. But you don't really know if you like that game. I mean, shoot, I used to rent video games from, movie rental places. I'd go rent it to see if I wanted to buy the game. To me, that's really not that much different than piracy. If I'm still going to buy the product or choose not to buy the product, if I'm just trying it for a free trial, who cares? It's no loss to them. Not really. And I'm not taking it out of circulation for somebody else. So I don't understand how they can sit there and argue that piracy is direct theft. I would actually like to see the numbers on that. I mean, if you look at it, how many times have, you've heard a song on the radio? I go, oh, hey, I like that, and bought the album, and the rest of the album was garbage. You only liked that one song. How many one-hit wonder albums were sold? So, I mean, piracy is a very difficult subject, especially in modern day and age, when they're removing all of your capability of actually purchasing things, actually buying something and being able to keep it. I mean, some big company could do a hostile buyout of Steam. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. I don't really know. But I mean, if some company were to come in and buy Steam and change the whole landscape and say, okay, we're a new company, so you have to buy all your games again. How long do you think that company would be in business? I mean, sure, they're the main purveyor, but I guess that just means, everybody's going to go to Epic or GOG or all of these other places that are basically taking Steam scraps. Because that's really what they're doing. I mean, GOG actually is doing their best to preserve games for long term, so forgive me on that one. Galaxy of Games, I think is what GOG is. And GOG. But Epic, I tend to not be a big fan of. I don't like the Epic Game Store. I don't know of any others. Oh wait, didn't EA try one too, like Origin or something like that? Man, I hated that. Because I was a big fan of SimCity. I'm not a City Skylines 1 I liked. I haven't tried 2 yet, but I've seen some really hit and miss on that one. But again, you know, that'd be something that I'd love to do a free trial of. Try out the game. Do I like it? Okay. I mean, but that's also why AAA publishers are scraping the bottom of the barrel. You know, they're trying so hard and not making it. Yet, indie publishers are going like mad. I mean, I just played an indie game last night on stream for 2 hours, and I played through the whole game, but only paid like $4 or $5 for it, maybe $7. I don't remember. You know, I didn't pay that much for the game, but I got what I paid out of it. Does that make sense? I am not sad at that investment. That was a perfect encapsulation of the game. You know, $80 for a game, you better be giving me hours, hundreds of hours of play, because it's not direct linear. Like $80 is sometimes some people's week's worth of grocery costs. You know, this is stuff they use to live. This is a necessity. So if you're asking me to pay out $80, it better be worth that price. That's my feelings on it. That's how I feel about it. And I think that's a lot of people's feelings on it because of this piracy issue, that people are pirating things. Because I don't want to pay all those freaking subscriptions just to get the few shows I want. I mean, Netflix, there's like 2 shows I want to watch on there. Stranger Things. Oh yeah, right. They canceled Inside Job, so I guess that's not what I'm going to watch. I'm sure there's others that I've watched, but the big reason for me to watch it is Stranger Things. That's the only reason why I pay that price. It doesn't seem right to me to pay the price for one show. You know, and sure, there might be things I would find, but I'd have to go looking for it. It's not something I want. You know, I mean, I get Amazon Prime because I buy a lot of stuff through Amazon. You know, I mean, I buy my coffee through Amazon because I get it in 5-pound bags. And that Amazon Prime subscription saves me all of that shipping costs. Right, exactly, especially that it's not released on physical copies anymore. And welcome in, Infinite. I don't know how long you've been lurking, but welcome in. And it's just like physical copies, like not being able to buy physical copies, that pisses me off. Like if Nintendo was really smart, they do a re-release of the Super Nintendo, backwards compatible with the NES. Only all of the games are on a hard drive that you own, like on a cartridge. Yeah, that's fine. You know, and everything's there. Or, you know, because we don't need the actual physical CDs, but we should have something else, like a more durable type of media. You know, give me a USB key that I can plug into my computer and play my movies. You know, a thumb drive, whatever you want to call them, flash drive. You know, where I can plug it in, because those flash drives can be huge. You know, you give me a kiosk in Walmart where I just plug in my, you know, media stick and I buy the movies in direct. You know, directly. It's like, okay, I want, you know, Dusk Till Dawn. I need the Deadpool movie. I want this. And you just load them on the key. You know, and you own those. You walk away with the actual copies. You know, and solid state thumb drives are actually pretty durable. Like, even if it gets damaged, you can take it to a computer repair shop and they can recover the data. You know, data recovery specialists can actually recover quite a bit of the data. So yeah, physical media doesn't have to be CDs. It doesn't have to be books. But they should be giving us something more. Cartridges, drives, you know, upgrade the media. You know, I mean, they're talking about these new CD-ROMs that are able to store a bunch more data. Like their crystalline structure, I think is what it was. So they're durable for hundreds of years. You know, unless you physically like grab and break it. But I mean, just the general use isn't going to wear it out. scratches aren't really going to be that big of a problem because it's actually made from like a mineral, if I remember correctly, and not a plastic. So physical media is definitely a necessity. Like, we need to be able to take it with us. And that was what we were supposed to get with streaming, was we were able to take our purchases with us. Then they removed the idea of purchase. Then they told us that purchase doesn't mean what we think it means. Then what does purchase mean? Oh, limited license to stream on our platform only. Okay. And if we choose to not host it anymore, you don't get it anymore. If it goes over to, Sony does a contract with HBO. Well, they migrate all of their TV shows, their movies, and everything from Sony over to there. It's like, but I bought Spider-Man on Amazon. Well, tough luck. You're gonna have to go buy it over there. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if purchasing is not owning, piracy is not stealing. And I already stated a case for piracy not being stealing just because you're cloning the item. You're not directly stealing it from somebody. You're not taking it out of circulation. Like, it means less to steal $1, or it means more to steal $1 bill from someone than it does cloning a song. Because you're not directly stealing it. You're not pulling that song out of circulation. Of course, labels have done that. And if we go back to the original idea of stealing being taken out of circulation, well, then a lot of labels, a lot of these companies, these movie companies, these production companies would be guilty of stealing, because how many things have they taken out of circulation? I mean, yes, that's a hyperbole because, they own the property. But if, taking something out of circulation that I purchased a copy of, but yet you're telling me I can't watch the copy I purchased, that's stealing from me. I'm not stealing from you. I think it should be in somebody's perfect rights that if you bought, Deadpool, and Fox migrates it over to Disney Plus, but you bought it before Disney owned Fox. And so you bought it through, say, Amazon. But because they migrated it over to Disney Plus, you can't watch it on Amazon anymore. I think you're perfectly in your rights to go and pirate that copy of Deadpool because you've already paid for it. Or change the purchase. It's like, okay, you have the right to own this copy for 10 years. The average life of a CD-ROM. A CD, a visual disc, whatever you want to call them. The physical media does have a time limit. VCRs, VHS tapes have a time limit. If you take meticulous care, they're probably going to last 20 to 30 years before the tape just degrades, because it is a disposable medium. It does eventually break down. It's just a lot longer storage capacity. Same thing with CDs, DVDs, physical ROMs. And they have a certain lifespan. Again, 10 to 15 years. Okay, 10 to 15 years. Give me that. I would pay $20, $25 per video if you can guarantee me that you're going to host that for me for 10 to 15 years. I'm fine with that. I would pay that. But don't tell me that it can be taken from me at a moment's notice. That they just decide for whatever reason. Maybe you said something, maybe you're a low-level streamer like me, and you said that piracy isn't stealing if purchasing isn't buying or owning. And they decide, nope, we're canceling your account because you said that. But they're taking away things that have nothing to do. I purchased these things. That had no effect on you. But if they can close my account, they take away things I own. That's BS. That's why I won't buy the Switch 2. You don't own any of it. You're renting it from Nintendo in perpetuity. And perpetuity basically means until we decide we don't want to give it to you or host it. All they've done is just made video games NFTs. They're just changing the link. Yeah, and it shouldn't. We should fight that, but I don't know how. The only thing I know how to do is go back to piracy, is to go back to buying physical media. Because they want us to lease everything. They want us to own nothing. I mean, they've literally said that. You will own nothing and be happy about it. No, apparently we won't. You know, and unfortunately, there's a whole generations being raised on this concept of non-ownership. Well, if I don't own it, you need to provide me something more to it. You know, I mean, if I'm not owning it, why am I paying so much for it? You know, why can't I just buy, watch the movie, buy the movie or whatever from Amazon for $10? Why does it have to be 29, 30, or 20 to 30 bucks to buy a movie if you're not producing a physical media for it? That's a huge load of cost because you're not paying for distribution. You're not paying for all of this. All of this stuff was supposed to reduce costs. Yet we're still paying the same amount for less. I don't get a physical copy of my movie. I don't get a physical copy of my game, yet I'm still paying the same price as somebody who is getting a physical copy. That makes no sense. One, hosting a game, hosting a movie isn't that expensive. It's dirt cheap. I mean, they just keep putting up data centers so that real estate in the digital world is only expanding. They keep making more of it. So the price for these things should actually be going down because the price to host them is going down because the real estate is basically infinite. Infinite playlist. So it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to sit here and make us pay these prices. I mean, especially if Nintendo is not, if there's not producing an actual cartridge, like the cartridge they give you for the Nintendo Switch 2 is basically just a link. Yeah, I knew it too. A link to the game in their storefront. What's the point in getting the cartridge? Just give me a QR code. Let me take my friggin' Nintendo Switch to the store and on the receipt, give me a QR code. Have a little camera on the friggin', Switch, take a picture with the QR, load the game. I don't even have to buy a physical copy or even this little cartridge thing. Quit shamming me. Quit making a mockery of the whole thing. You are mocking me with this concept of purchasing a game when it's just a cartridge that does nothing but links the game in their storefront. But also I think a lot of people don't understand is that the whole reason why they're pushing this, especially with games, like specifically with games, is because of 0-day patches. They're releasing games that aren't good, that are broken in some way or another. Like in cartridges, in old CD games, they had to do a whole lot more testing of the game before they released it because it might be broken in some way that they didn't see in developing. But now you're the beta tester as a gamer. You play beta, I guess, or early release tester, however they want to friggin' slide that in there. Exactly. Like Tater bought a copy of Sinners, and it comes with a complimentary digital copy. That's great. That way you don't have to run that I thought was going to be the standard. When I bought a physical copy, that meant I didn't have to run it in my DVD player. I had the digital copy, the digital rights to use it. And now they're taking that, I'm sure that that's becoming less and less. And without corporations changing the way they look at these things, they're going to lose. And I think that they're losing a lot bigger than they're telling anybody. My theory is that in 5 to 10 years, Hollywood, New York, wherever they produce this stuff, I just use Hollywood as a general statement for that, where they produce the movies and TV. I have a feeling they are going to be bankrupt. It is going to be revealed that they were cooking their books so badly that it might actually be on the level of mega corruption, fraud, money laundering, something like that. That it was the only way they could stay in business. A DeLorean level fraud. And if you're not sure what I mean, is DeLorean, the car company, him got in bed with a bunch of Colombians, and the whole reason why we don't have a DeLorean motor car is because he got into drug trading, even though the car was on its way to being actually a pretty good car. I mean, mostly what we see and how much, what people see is prototype level, but because he had to move this product, they put some undersized engines in it. They put, little work. I find it funny that basically it went the same way as the Cybertruck, only no drug charges yet. Although people have improved the DeLorean. They'll buy an old DeLorean and improve it. But anyway, I have a feeling that Hollywood is cooking their books, that they're in a lot more trouble than they're willing to say. And my guess will be is that BlackRock has been the one that is propping them up. They don't make money through movies, through TV shows. They're making money through investments. So it doesn't matter if they make money on the movie, because the movie, that's why they're doing these big budget movies, because they don't have to worry about making a profit on it. All they have to do is just keep the brand up and running, because their investments are what's making the money. At least that's my, conspiracy theory. I could be completely wrong, but yeah. I just feel that people don't really look at these things enough. I mean, we are distracted so often by, oh, look at this bright shining over here. We don't want to look at the bad. We're told not to look at the bad. We are engineered not to look at the bad because it makes us feel bad. So I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to move over here. Well, sure, that might work for in the short term, for your mental health and stuff like that. I have a whole conspiracy on why mental health is such a big topic today, is because everybody is actually right in pointing out these bad things, and it makes you depressed. Of course it's going to make you depressed. But that's because it's actually bad, and it's literally mentally harming you. It is a physical pain, so we need to fix that. We need to do something about it, and we're not. We're not doing something about it because we're keep giving, they legalized marijuana. We have all of these, health, options out there. We're being inundated with entertainment, yet the world is still sick. So every time we look outside of these coping mechanisms, our brain hurts. It's depressing, it's sad, and we don't want to see it. We want to point and laugh at something. I just watched Idiocracy the other day, and I can understand, because I lived through the time when that movie came out, why a lot of people why even they tried to bury it, because it really didn't say anything back then. But now you can look at it and it's like, oh, damn, that was a prophetic movie. At the time it came out, it just looked like some stupid stoner comedy about the future. And I use stoner comedy as a catch-all, not because, only stoned people would watch it, but it's something you watch with half a brain. You're not really paying attention. It's just kind of, funny. And it was. But now in hindsight, it's like you look back and you look at our world today and you look back at this movie and it's just like, oh, maybe that was a little too on the nose. Or at least we're getting there. Everything has to be branded. Everything. You really can't buy, like, even Walmart jeans are like a branded jean, or they have different levels of branded jeans, if I remember right. I don't know. I haven't bought clothes at Walmart in forever. It's so baffling to me that how many different things have to be their way or no way. Corporations will feed us this stuff and we don't have a choice. You know, I don't particularly like buying a lot of stuff through Amazon, but I can't find anything that I can get in the stores here that works like what I get from Amazon. I do my best to, like when I bought the Vocaster, you know, when I bought the new mic and stuff, I went to Vocaster's website and bought it. I think they kicked me over to Amazon to buy it through them. Like wasn't able to buy it directly. I think I got it that way. Like they sent me there, but I will do my best to go directly to the people. Like I don't buy electronics generally from Amazon anymore because basically they're inundated with fake merchandise. You know, much like Hollywood is inundating itself with fake merchandise. Oh, look at this new blockbuster. Nobody wants to watch it, bud. You know, which is why, you know, this new Superman movie and like Sinners, you know, why they were such big hits, because they were movies people wanted to see. I was burned out on the Marvel universe. I think it was Captain America, Winter Soldier, Civil War, somewhere in that era. I was just like, I'm done on Marvel movies because you've ruined the characters. I saw it with Iron Man 1. As soon as RDJ says, I am Iron Man, at the end of the first Iron Man movie, it's like, oh, well, they ruined it. Because that one mistake is going to propagate throughout all of the media that now nobody can have a secret identity, which made Civil War such a joke. More so than the fact that it really wasn't even the comic Civil War, but I mean, they tried. But you destroyed every amount of drama and tension that a hero would have by hiding their identity. You know, you ruined the small story to make a big splash. You know, that's one thing that a lot of these AAA studios for video games, AAA studios for Hollywood are getting wrong. You have to anchor your hero, heroine, you know, whoever, whatever your story is about, in small stories of the humanizing of the event. It's like why Batman is the most popular DCU character. Because he's the human. We can identify with him. So we can see the big story out there. You know, so we can feel what it's like to be a human among gods. It's why what made Superman so good this time around is that we could see that he was struggling to maintain his humanity. Unlike with the Snyderverse, that Superman had little to no humanity. He was Kryptonian through and through. Even though he was raised on, you know, Earth, all of this crap, he still was a Kryptonian or a god among men. And that's you can't identify with a character like that. So they keep feeding us these reasons to watch these shows, but we don't want to watch them. I mean, I firmly believe that all of these studios are fluffing their numbers. I don't think Lilo and Stitch, the live action movie, made as much money as it did. I don't. I believe that there were seats that were bought and reserved to make it look good. I have no proof of this. I know a lot of movie theaters said that you know, their tickets were sold out for it. Give me a second. But how many of the butts were in seats? Look at the manufactured hype over Minecraft movie. I mean, a movie that dominated the news cycle for a couple weeks and then just died. Like, people just stopped talking about it. There were no persistence. It's the same thing that happens with Avatar all the way back in the day. The first Avatar, you know, James Cameron's Avatar, Blue People, the Na'vi. Highest grossing movie in for freaking ever. And yet, it didn't change jack. I don't know. I just feel that, like, you take publishing. They have inflated their numbers for so long. Like, people don't realize that the New York Times bestseller list, how people found out about books, was this New York Times bestseller list. Well, how did these books that just released get on the New York Times bestseller list? Maybe I was naive, ignorant, whatever. I thought it was because, people like heard about the book, whatever. And I thought that they were like, oh, okay, I want to be on the waiting list. And they bought that. They bought that almost as soon as it came out. Oh, I will reserve a copy. So that tells me that it's a good author. So I'd go read the book, and I find it's trash. I'm not a big fan of this book. I don't like it. Some of them were just poorly edited. Some of them were atrociously edited. That kind of stuff. But come to find out, it's the publishing companies that reserve those copies. They'll reserve like 1 million of them just to get on the bestseller list. But they don't pay for them. Yeah, some not edited. They don't pay for the books. They just reserve them to make it look like they've sold this many copies. Well, wait a minute. You're telling me that the publishing company has enough faith in this book, but they won't pay for it? They'll have enough faith in an author to give advance, but also if the book doesn't sell, they have to give back some of that advance. So the publishing company is literally covering their bets both sides, and they're not paying out anything. And from what I understand, unless you're a mega author, royalties from books are atrocious. They're just bad. Unless you have like a really big hit or something like that. So the publishing companies are the ones keeping 90% of the money. Just like with the music labels, they keep 90% of the money. This is why I think people are more into piracy. Because we want to pay the person directly providing us our entertainment. As much as we can. Like buying Raven's book. I know that I'm giving quite a decent chunk to him. A lot more than if he was not self-published. That's BS. If I can pay better than a publishing company, why would I want to go through a publishing company? Yes. Well, that's why you just go with like through this creative media. You go direct sales. There's no reason to go with a publishing company, and I think publishing companies are finally starting to realize it. I mean, you even look at comic companies. They're imploding right now because one distributor screwed up the books. Like the big two are going to be fine, DC and Marvel, because they went away from Diamond. But Image is owed something like $3 million. I mean, I don't know how many of you are comic book fans, but that's a lot of money for comics. And Image is the third largest. And this company felt confident enough not to pay them. It's just like this V-Shoujo thing with the VTubers. Oh, we're just not going to pay the talent. Like, wait, what? And this shows me that in corporations, it's endemic not to pay the talent. Except for the most vocal, like I'm sure Stephen King has no problem getting paid. I'm sure that, Robert Downey Jr. has no problem getting paid. But what about the lower end stars? The B and C listers. How much struggling do they get just to get paid? Like I mentioned earlier that David Prowse was told for years, I'm not even sure when he actually eventually got paid, for the rest of his money from Return of the Jedi. Because it still hadn't seen a profit. And this was like years later, like a decade later, he still hadn't got paid. One of the biggest sci-fi movies, or biggest movies in history, and it didn't turn a profit? That's some shady math. That's a bunch of CEOs making money. So, again, I state, that's why I watch YouTube. At least I know the creator's getting more of a cut. Or I can just give directly to them. It's why I do instead of upgrading my membership to Raven's membership on YouTube, I would rather give the $2 here, $2 there on live streams because I know he gets a bigger cut of that rather than upgrading to a $5 a month or whatever. I pay the $1 a month for the members only. Yes, that sounds dirt cheap. But over the month, I try to give, more than that $5 a month for membership because I know that he sees a bigger cut of the super chats. It's better to give directly to the creator than give, to the company in between. It's like watching a little fiasco on pirate software. Regardless of how you feel about pirate software, but I for Twitch, there's a higher return on bits than there is even on memberships. The creator's getting closer to 82% from bits than the 55% on memberships, on subscriptions. So it's better just to give bits. I mean, sure, subscribe to your favorite creators, but I also know that, that's kind of expensive, $6 a month. Or if you have a Prime membership, you give it to them. But you only have one per Prime membership. But I think that's why it's so difficult to establish yourself in any kind of major corporation. Ninetales, I really think that, it would be best to self-publish. To use the Patreon, to use your server in Discord to push your books. Self-publish through Amazon. My sister did it. She published 3 or 4 books and then for some ridiculous reason pulled them all down. I don't know. I know she had trouble formatting them for the Kindles because it's so much different than a book, and you'd think that would be pretty close to straight line. But whatever. I'm sure they probably fixed it now. I just think that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than they want us to know. I started talking about piracy. And I think that's why they get so butthurt about piracy. Because piracy shows how easy it is to distribute. Right. See, that's vanity press. I'm talking about through Amazon itself. Or, hell, ask Raven how he did it. I don't honestly know. I don't know that much about self-publishing. I just know that I would rather buy direct from the creator, direct from the author through a self-publishing than going to Walmart. Sup, Green Jeans? How you doing? I'm just sitting here yapping. Like I said, an afternoon yappening. Hey, Gossip. Welcome in. It's like, sorry, I only got another hour before I have to cook dinner for the wife. So, I know you guys are just getting here. But we're talking about piracy, publishing, how corporations basically steal from everybody and then wonder why they're getting stolen from, so to speak, when they keep moving the bar on what's considered ownership. I'm waiting for cars to be, you have to lease them. You don't ever actually get to own them because leasing a car is so much worse than owning one. Like, they control everything you do about it. It's also why they want you to rent instead of buy. It's why, you can qualify for an $1,800 apartment or whatever, but not a $700 mortgage. Oh, nice. Why Nicolas Cage? Am I not the only one speaking of this? I mean, obviously, I'm not the only one speaking of this. I mean, this all started because I was watching I'm Moist Critical. Oh, you don't say. Got it. Right. It's just like with D&D and how they want everybody to go to their digital platform. It's actually one of the reasons why I won't play 5th Ed or whatever they're calling the 2024 edition. I just won't support it. I think that, Hasbro needs to implode. They make $1 billion off of Monopoly Go a year, give or take. And they complain. Nice. Well, see, and that's what I mean is that I think people are more likely, and, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think people are more likely to buy directly from the creator. I think that's why YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Rumble, whatever you want to call it, exists, because people want to pay directly to the person. That's why, like I said before, and I'm sure this will be, no new information for Playlist, but now that we got, or for Infinite, now that there's more people, the fact that streaming services were offering the chance to get these people directly paid through views. But now they screwed up all the contracts, and so now, they just do pay flat fees, not for views. So people, are getting paid a whole lot of money for things that nobody's watching. And I think that's ridiculous. I think we should directly pay. We have the technology, we have the ability for people to be directly paid for what they do. And it bothers me that we're not. It bothers me that we sit here and we try to buy and we're trying to support the thing we love, but I can't afford umpteen million friggin' different streaming platforms. Why can't I just directly go to Netflix and say, hey, I want to pay directly for Stranger Things? Hey, HBO, I want to directly pay for the new Superman movie because they have with DC. I want to directly pay for this thing. I don't want to pay your publishing costs for umpteen million things that have failed. Those things, keep getting propped up by other sales. And that's Hollywood math. They're trying to cover their losses so that a vanity project, doesn't show up as being a loss. Deadpool versus Wolverine proved that Marvel has good properties that people want to see. They just don't want to see the average run. Superman proves that DC is still relevant. They just don't want to see this other garbage. Sinners proves that people don't mind a period piece movie, as long as it has a good story. It's not fatigue, blank fatigue of any kind. It's bad story fatigue. You're not writing to the audience that wants to watch it. So why? Why are you not writing? Why are you not producing video games, TV shows, movies that people want to actually watch? Why are you forcing people to watch things they don't? Does that make sense? We're paying through all these other properties to prop up things we don't want to watch. That's why I like doing what I'm doing. I don't know how to explain that any more than what I already have. Is just the fact that I think we as a society are sick of paying for things we don't want. Most people go to Piracy because they're tired of the ads. They pay for Netflix but still get ads. They pay for Amazon but still get ads. Because advertisers want to have their name out there. Well, I don't care. Nobody wants you here. You're literally that one needy person on the edge of a group going, hey, what about me? Hey, I'm still here. Yeah, nobody cares. Go away. We do our best to ignore them. Ad blockers, fast forwarding, skip ads, which may or may not still be a thing. We pay for premium services because we don't want ads. Because you're advertising things we don't want. Right? Yeah. There's gas stations that run ads while you're filling up. How come I'm not getting cheaper gas because of this? You're forcing me to listen to some BS. Why not shave a few cents off per gallon? You're getting paid for it. Why aren't I? You know, that's the difference is that advertisers, yeah, right there at the pump. Advertisers are so hated that they have to find inventive ways to get in front of your eyes. Like, that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is how much money is in the advertiser space and how much of it is a circle jerk. Pardon my language. Pardon for the visual, but advertisers pay to be put into projects. But also these projects pay advertisers to advertise for them. How much money is locked up in that little cycle right there? Well, yeah, I mean, one, they're terrible at advertising something because they shine the best possible light on it, and they actually border on the point of telling you it does things it doesn't. You know, but we're not going to tell you that it doesn't actually do these things. We're not going to advertise what it actually is. We're going to advertise, like, how many different ads, like, you watch this ad, and then, like, the actual product is placed there, and you're like, how are these two related? You know, you're trying to advertise by association, not by the actual product. Because some of the products are absolutely impossible to advertise for. You know, vacuum. Yep, it sucks. You know, cars, you know, it's like, yep, gets you from point A to point B. I just gave you a funny example. I mean, way back in the day, Electrolux, an old vacuum cleaner company, I'm not even sure if they're still around, had a magazine ad that said Electrolux really sucks. By the 90s, that was a hilarious ad. You know, they pay all this money for research and how to advertise people, but then they disregard it and advertise terribly. You know, Tyson, it takes a tender man to make it takes a strong man to make a tender chicken. You know, stupid ads like that. There's plenty of funny examples of bad ads. And yet millions of dollars go into ads every day. You know, I mean, just think about how much money BetterHelp threw out there and is still throwing out there, even though it's been proven they're terrible. Yeah, family going to a state fair on the beach, all for hemorrhoid cream. You know, well, me personally, I think advertising medications at all, especially prescribed medications, absolutely illegal. If I can't go to a store and buy it over the counter, why the hell are you advertising it to me? That is literally a waste of advertiser dollars. That is literally a waste of money. At best, it was ineffective. That is correct. But then you get into the idea that they were using people, you know, actual therapists' names who had no affiliation to them. You thought you were talking with this therapist when it was actually somebody with no degree whatsoever. The therapist they actually used, they weren't paying properly, and they were selling your data behind the scenes. You know, actual HIPAA violation. You know, and they're still out there. At least last I knew, they're still out there. Yeah, did you start getting some strange, you know, robocalls and, you know, spam emails and stuff? You know, that's where it came from. You know, advertisers, you know, they dig, you know, companies get paid to give their info that they have on you. But yet advertisers are absolutely ass at advertising. Like, we're supposed to have targeted advertising, you know, advertise things that actually mean something to you. Yeah, exactly. You know, like, I buy a pair of shoes. You know, I bought these nice Keen shoes. If you're not familiar with Keen, they're probably one of the most comfortable shoes. They're a little spendy, but they last longer than cheap shoes. And yet now all I'm getting advertised is the specific pair of Keen shoes I just bought. Why are you trying to sell me the exact same thing I just bought? Why aren't you trying to sell me, you know, oh, cool shoelaces or a shoe care kit? how to take care of the upper of your shoe. Why aren't you selling me things like new socks? Things associated. Oh, was that a hiking boot? Well, here's some hiking stuff. But no, it's the exact same freaking shoe. How many times has that happened to you? Do you buy something and then that's all you get advertised? Is the same freaking thing you just bought. How targeted is that? That's dumb. That is a waste of advertiser dollars. Is it any wonder people use ad blocks? I mean, yeah, exactly. Why? Why are you advertising something? Or like, I'll go research something that has nothing to do with anything I want, but I'm researching for, like today, a topic to talk about, or just part of a story or something like that. And then I get these stupid advertisements that I guess are associated with it, but are so loosely associated that it's almost like false advertising to throw that in there. It's ridiculous. And I realize, I'm not saying anything that people don't already know. I'm not saying anything like that. I know these aren't hot takes. I mean, these are probably pretty freaking cold. Like, everybody knows this. But I want to know why. I want to know why they keep thinking this is a smart move and it's effective. And yet they still have to force people to for ads. Right? Exactly. But at least that makes sense. You searched it. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a certain amount of sense. Me, I get these weird ass, the advertisements for the exact same thing I bought. Like Amazon keeps trying to say, "Oh, we saved this for you. Here's some phone chargers." I bought phone chargers just a month ago. I don't need any more. I don't need another set of phone chargers this quick. I mean, I don't understand that. Why aren't you trying to sell me a Bluetooth speaker? Why aren't you trying to sell me something that's associated with what I bought, not the exact same thing I bought? Well, it's because advertisers pay to be put on top of these lists. Amazon, Google, they have to have these ads in front of certain eyes quickly. And they can prove that, oh, I have an interest in Keen. I have an interest in these because of these search histories. Oh, that I stopped using Facebook when it was more ads than posts. I mean, well, actually, I stopped using Facebook decade and a half ago. I don't think I've used it since, it was about 15, probably about 2010 was the last time I think I logged into my account. And that's because it felt like screaming in a room, trying to get everybody's attention while everybody else is screaming in the room. Everybody wants to be heard, but nobody wants to listen. I'd try to respond to my friends' posts, but they'd never pay attention. Or I try to talk with people, never talk back. All right, fine. What's the point? I'm sitting here shouting in a friggin' well with 20,000 echoes in it. It's ridiculous. And that's when I knew social media wasn't for me, or at least in that capacity. I don't have a Twitter. Well, I mean, I technically have a Twitter, but I don't use it. Sorry, jitter. I don't have anything really other than like YouTube. I don't have any other social media. I guess Discord counts. I have that. But that's because most social media is garbage. And I'm also getting tired of, friggin' Discord advertising to me. Hey, you want to see this? You want to see this? You'll get a bonus if you do. And it's like, why? And I think it also has to do with, right? Oh, I think it's a problem with everybody. And anytime you find a better social media platform, oh, this one doesn't have all the advertising, I can go to this. And as soon as people start shifting, advertiser dollars start going there. And because they pump so much money into the advertising budget that they have to put that many ads in there by contract. Like, they don't have a choice. That's just how the contracts work, because advertisers are the devil. Because they want to insinuate themselves in every damn little thing so that you can't move without seeing some kind of advertising. Because there's a psychology to it. The more ads that are put in front of you, it keeps lowering your resistance to say no. But the problem is because they've done it so often, our resistance is so high, so they have to use like 1 million ads before you finally say yes. Right? Well, how many YouTube comments are friggin' ads for somebody's channel or bots trying to get you to go to someplace else? How many YouTube comments are actually people? I mean, this all leads into the dead internet theory, and I can go on for another, hour on that alone. In how back when I was a kid, we knew about the dead internet theory. We knew that there were bots out there. I mean, and I can only imagine how much worse it's gotten. Back in the late 90s, I think it was 98, 99, there was a guy that had botted something like 1 billion different computers through a simple text. And he had the ability to shut down the internet. Because, I mean, the internet didn't have the backbones it does now. But I can only imagine what we're not hearing now. Because at the time it was scare tactics to keep people away from the internet because the advertiser dollars weren't there. Keep in mind, TV's always been advertiser dollars. Radio's always been advertiser dollars. Because those were things that were provided for free. So the radio, you bought a radio and you got advertising. This made sense because you were getting it for free. So you were the product. They were selling things to you through commercials. Same thing with TV. But when I started paying for TV, why am I still getting ads? Why did cable TV have so many ads? I'm paying for these channels. And why am I paying for channels I don't use? Right? Thank you for choosing Ronald's House of Mac. What's your beef? And I just... really what it all comes down to, what all of this, the AAA studios, movies, TV, the biggest problem is advertising. That's why they get so shitty. That's why they turn to literal garbage. Because of advertising. Because companies don't know when to say no. They don't understand that they need to cut the faucet off to the advertisers. Oh yeah, it's turning down free money. Oh, right? Ads for ad blocking software. Right? Yeah, it's like, and keep in mind, YouTube doesn't want you to use an ad blocker and will ban you in certain respects. Or at least block the video for using it. Hello there. And yet they'll let the advertiser do an advertisement for ad blocking software. Like literally something that's not in their best interest. But ad blocking software paid them to put that ad up. So they do. And then tell you, but you're evil if you use it. We are talking about advertising in general being idiotic. Not just idiotic ads. And hello there, hello there. It's it would take a lot more money for me to get the golden arches on my ass. I will tell you that right now. You better be paying me $1 million, or that I get so much free food a year that I can space out for a year for the rest of my life. A Big Mac meal a friggin' year for the rest of my life. I have not watched YouTube ads in so long. I pay for premium. And so I keep hearing about how terrible some of these... Oh, there you go. $1,000 a month. See, that's even better. I keep hearing about how terrible ads on YouTube really are and how many they keep trying to force down your throat. Like, I mean, oh my God. Can you imagine? I mean, the AI ads, all of this stuff. Yes, YouTube Premium is totally worth the price. I know a lot of people complain, but me personally, YouTube Premium is worth the price. One, my creators that I watch get a better cut, or at least as good a cut as they can. I don't have to worry about ads. I'm happy. Oh, you can get paid to do that, actually. You can get car wraps. But you have to drive a certain amount of time throughout hot days, or the high point of days. Polybuzz? I don't even know if I want to. Yeah, I've heard about the corn being censored. Like, oh my God. I don't know if you can. I honestly don't know. I wish I knew, because there's a few friends I know that need it very badly. You know, I mean, YouTube Premium is just, it's so worth it. It's so worth the price. Because all I have to deal with then is the internal sponsor ads that YouTubers put out there. And honestly, I don't blame them. Vegetables. Green jeans. Porn ads. Twitch doesn't like us saying that, though. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Green Jeans is being facetious, being a, jokester. Right? Only on hot days. Anyway, yeah. YouTubers who actually put the timestamp in the promotion, unfortunately, that's funny. I'm not sure if I want to know if there's another euphemism for that, but like I've been married for 20 plus years. So corn's not something I really touch. Like legit, it's just not something that's there for me. But I don't know if there's like a euphemism for popcorn, or if that's a double meaning there. But eggplants and peaches. Yes, Ninetales, eggplants and peaches. What was I talking? Okay, see, that's what I was saying. Is like, I'm hoping there's not something more like a euphemism there, like, because I like popcorn, but popcorn. Okay, yeah, see, I don't know if it does either, and I'm just like, wait, I might not agree to saying I like popcorn just in case. I don't keep up on all the slang. I can't stand yams, and I mean the real fruit. Vegetable, root vegetable. Yams and sweet potato. I have tried them so many different ways, I just cannot stand them. Now, if you're talking about the 1950s and what they mean by yams, yes. I like a good pair of legs. I'm sure. But he's not here. Unless he's ghosted in at some point. I think bananas are a real fruit. But I think they also, a case can be made that they're a herb. Like somebody was trying to tell me that they're closer to an herb, but I'm like, everybody knows they're a fruit and they're good. It's like tomatoes. It's like, oh, tomatoes, are technically a fruit. Yeah, but I'm not putting it in a, I'm not putting tomatoes in my fruit salad. Unless that fruit salad also involves, other of the misclassified fruits. You know, because I guess technically salsa can be. Yes, I have. That was one of the first things, you know, because that was a common Thanksgiving thing around my house. No. I've tried sweet potatoes, pan-fried, sweet potato pie. I've tried them so many different ways. I don't like peaches either. They're too sweet. Like, apparently, I like certain things that are pretty sweet. See, I like a lot of different kinds of pie. I love pumpkin pie. I love lemon custard pie. My daughter Tater made a cherry chiffon pie with dark chocolate, whipped cream, and frozen, and oh, it was so good. I'm the opposite. I'm not a big fan of cakes. There are very specific cakes I really like, but just a basic sheet cake, you know, birthday cake style, you know, the yellow cake or white cake, not a huge fan. You know, ramen. I love ramen. But again, you know, I mean, this is, you know, the things, you know, that everybody has their own tastes. And I think that's what advertisers don't understand. You know, take it back to the original subject is that just because somebody has a friend that likes this thing doesn't mean they like the thing. Sure, friends will buy stuff together, you know, as a general rule, but not always. Oh. Okay, like if you're going for like a traditional sponge cake, yeah, okay, that's good. And like cheesecakes. I love cheesecakes, even though I consider those more of a pie. But that's just me. Ramen. Yes, I'm aware. Yeah, my buddy printed out all of their literature. His girlfriend worked at a McDonald's. And he had this old, like, you know, World War I flying ace leather cap with the goggles and everything, and had a leather trench coat. This is about early 2000s. You know, just stuff that he had lying around from, I think, some cosplay he did somewhere or something. And he put the leather helmet on, the goggles, the trench coat, walked into McDonald's and asked if he could, well, actually, he asked if he could talk to the manager. The manager came up, like, looking at him real funky. He's like, I'm worried about the state of your soul. And he, you know, hands off the literature and then walks out after ordering a meal. His girlfriend was dying in the back. I don't know. It was just a funny story. You know, but I mean, the problem is that we've monetized. I guess this really comes down to the big thing. We have monetized and squeezed out almost every bit of money we can out of monetizing people's attention. And we're hitting this breaking point where you can't squeeze any more out. And these companies haven't caught on to the fact. Only if you're in the basement. Aren't you often in the basement? Never mind. So squeezing all of this attention out has actually made us more immune to advertising. That's a bigger problem. Because now they're trying to push it harder and harder, like I was mentioning before about resistance to advertising and how it slowly breaks down your will to the next ad. Well, because we've been advertised so much to that resistance is so high, they have to spam it out there. You know, like literally try. I think, you know, the average now is like a person sees 100 ads an hour. And I don't mean like individual ads, but you know, like sometimes your browser is advertising to you while you're on YouTube, you know, and there's like several different ads, you know, and the average person in doing just their daily work, drive back and forth, listening to radio, it averages about 100 ads an hour. I might be wrong on that. But I know it's a significant percentage that most people find absolutely ridiculous that it's that much. Like, it's that ridiculous that we can be advertised to so much in an hour and not realize it. I mean, keep in mind, even somebody walking by with a can of some drink or a bottle of some drink, that label is an ad for that. My car's brand new. I don't need an extended warranty yet, Brando, but thank you for checking in. Try back in about 6 months. Oh, well, see, one, I don't use shorts. I will not watch YouTube shorts. Same reason I don't watch TikTok, because I know I'll get addicted. Same reason why I don't do Instagram Reels. I know I'll get addicted to it because they're designed to addict you. Hi, this is Rando Brando on a recorded line, calling you about your car's extended warranty. Was that good? Or do you want me to do like the corny advertiser voice? Hi, this is Rando Brando on a recorded line, calling you about your car's extended warranty. Whichever one you like better, Rando. There you go. Yeah, and see, that's why I don't touch it. Because even scrolling on YouTube, I'll catch something that catches my eye and I'll click on it, and then I go to the next, and then I realize, like, no, stop. I have the willpower. I stop. That's why I don't. Because I know I will keep going. It's not because I'm stronger than somebody else. It's probably because I'm weaker to it than most. Because I don't subject myself. Hey, I'm always here. Well, not always, but 2 hours a night, Tuesday through Saturday, and Wednesdays between 2 and 4, and between 9 and 11. Tuesday through Saturday. Oh, wait, Thursday it's 7 to 11 now. I recently changed up my schedule. You know, there's also my buddy Ghost, which, I mean, I know you're part of his crew. Yes, I can. Let's see, Tuesday is 9. Well, I mean, let me do it this way. Tuesday through Saturday. 9 to... Yeah, we are. 11. 2 to 4. 7 to 11. Almost got me with that one. There you go. Sorry, it took me a while to figure out. Hello, I am here to talk to you about the issue of carrying a lit grenade. What's pH? I don't know that one. Ah, okay. Oh, you got to go, Green Jeans? Yeah, I'm out of here in 20 minutes, but yeah, I'll see you later. Ah, okay. Yeah, okay. Have a good one, Green Jeans. Talk to you later tonight, maybe. Because I will also be back on, my new usual time tonight. But this was also my because I took away Mondays, I thought I, still add, the Wednesday 2 hours. So I still do roughly, the same amount of time. I wish. So all of those hours will be 1 hour ahead for you? So it'd be 10 to midnight, 3 to 5, and 8 to 12. Yeah, well, I've got people, from Pacific Coast to East Coast that watch me. And that's one of the reasons why I do this one, why I decided to do this like middle of the day, because there's people that can't watch me at night, but can pop in during the day. I don't know. I just try to have fun. Well, that's not good. You in college? You studying stuff? We've got a few college students that are in here too. But I don't know, advertising is such a insidious thing because it's psychologically designed to break your will to what you... Yeah, I went to college and I dropped out. Just like I went to high school and I dropped out. I went to college. Initially, I was going to get a psychology degree. But I realized how terrifying psychology really is. And there was no way I was going to support that. Because it's not all just about helping people. It's also about squeezing whatever you can out of a person. And that I just felt was a bad idea. So I switched majors to journalism and found out that, yeah, basically journalism was dead by the time I was going to be doing that. I mean, you're seeing the fallout of it now. Fact checking is an afterthought at best. So I switched from that to just being an English major, and then I pissed off the head of the English department, so no other English teacher would take me. So there went my college career. So I just dropped out because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and I'd already switched majors 3 times, which, it's really hard to keep up. Of course, I still dropped out with a pretty high GPA. Just like in high school, I dropped out with a 3.9. I had a fiance at the time to take care of. College, it was, I think my GPA was 2.9 to 3.2, depending. And that was mostly because I really didn't do what I wanted to do. But yeah, I went to college. I've done a lot of things. Like, you pretty much name it, I've done it. I've always been one to want to learn more. Like, that's always what I want to do. Like, I pick up a book, I read it. I'm just interested in everything. So it's really hard for me to specialize in any one thing. Which is why, it's like, I talk sometimes and I, on stream. Sometimes I play video games. Sometimes I'm doing things with other people, just that kind of stuff. I just like everything. I like learning about everything. It's just absolutely fascinating to me. The world is, I should say. That there's so much that goes on, so much that can happen. I've worked everything from, convenience store to security. I've sailed import-export ships, which is known as being a merchant marine. I can't think of everything. Worked as a pizza delivery driver. I've worked as construction work, demolitions work, bodyguard, personal attaché, executive. What was the hell was that called? It was some stupid title for basically I made sure that this guy kept his schedule. I was like his walking reminder to do stuff. But it was like executive attache or some BS. It was a BS job. It was fun. It was what, I've done a lot. And, I also homeschooled my kids. Because they asked me to, not because I wanted to. It was like, they learned more from me just sitting there watching TV shows and telling them what was going on, what the history of what was being talked about. Because, again, I'm interested in a lot of things. And I found that college couldn't keep up. That was the main thing is that college couldn't keep up with what I wanted to do. Am I always right? No. Because I know general information about a lot. Not necessarily... I don't go necessarily as deep in some subjects. So if, somebody finds I'm wrong, correct me. Please. My God, correct me. But my favorite thing is just learning about things, talking about things, seeing where people are. What do they do? That kind of thing. It's extremely enjoyable to do like this. I absolutely love it. I mean, sure, I don't have a huge audience yet. I hope someday that changes. But if it never does, I'm still happy. I'm still enjoying what I'm doing. And it's not like I can get bored and master this. Not like with some of my other jobs where it's like, oh, this is all there is to it. Well, I'm bored now. I'm going to move on to something else. Like this, it's like there's always so many different facets to do. I'm also working on, YouTube channels that I want to get more up and running. Okay, the music channel is up and running. I do that just fine. I dropped my VODs, which again is up and running and fine, I will do my best to still respond to things I can see. I'm going to be honest, it's just what I do. I will do my best. And who knows? Maybe I can make it work. Maybe I can, get some of the early adopters like, my mods right now, maybe I can afford to hire them to help me keep on track of what's going on. Work it at a different angle than most people. Because I know most streamers, once they get to a certain point, they basically have to ignore chat other than like, the certain people. I don't know if there's a better way to do it. But I prefer to keep, if we're on track of talking about certain thing, maybe we can figure out some way to work it better. I don't know. Maybe by then it'll be a very different landscape. We'll see. That's the point is that, you adapt with the times. That's something that I've always tried to do. And I think that's something that we're seeing that, like I've said before, corporations aren't doing. They're not adapting to the times. They're absolutely terrified of adapting because they'd have to take a risk and they might fail. But a lot of these companies are literally too big to fail. So even taking the risk and doing something different or new really won't kill the company. They might go through a dip, but they'll come back. So why not try something new? Why not be a little riskier? You can afford it. The rest of us really can't, and you make sure of that. So why not take a little risk? Why not do things that scare you a bit? Because that's also fun. I mean, why else would we go on amusement park rides? Why else would we, go on flights or parachute, out of planes or climb mountains? Because it's fun, but it's also risky. You can't always live safe. You live safe, you die anyway. Might as well have a little fun while you do it. That's the thing is that most people are so afraid to try something new because they've been told it's like, oh, what if you fail? Yeah? And then I pick myself up and I do something new. But do you ever ask yourself, what if I succeed? What if I actually succeed? What do I do? How do I handle the success? Why do you think so many Twitch streamers, YouTubers, these people that got early success have no idea what they're doing and why they implode? Because they never thought about the idea of what actually if I succeed. Because it's considered arrogance to say, oh, if I succeed, I'll do this, I'll do that, But if you do say these things, people can go back to it and hold you accountable for what you said. Oh, yeah, like some video games. Video games, they need to try something different. Think about it. Super Mario Brothers started out as a side-scroller. And as the graphics got to a certain point, it was still a pretty good side-scroller. But then you have Super Mario World, which went 3D. That was a big risk. What if people didn't like it? I think it was Super Mario World. It's been a long time since I thought about that game. But it was the first Super Mario 3D game. That changed the landscape of how we thought about video games. Sure, it wasn't the first one to do it, nor was it the last one. But it was probably one of the biggest ones. Right? Well, you can't teach somebody a language through AI. You can't. That's dumb. One, AI is a tool. Sure, you have a human person there maybe consulting an AI about, oh, is this the right thing? But you still have to have a brain in there. And we keep thinking that AI stands for artificial intelligence. It's algorithmic intelligence. It's just using an algorithm. It's not actual. It's dumb. AI is dumb. It is a tool, but you cannot let it do your thinking for you. AI is fun to play with. I generate music. The background music you're listening right now is music I generated with AI. I write my own lyrics for the stuff that actually has vocals. I pay for the ability to use this on stream so I don't get copyright infringed. I'm paying for this stuff. And, I write all the lyrics. I set up how I want the song to sound and all of that, but it's a tool. It doesn't supplant my creativity. Does it streamline it a lot? Hell yeah, I don't have to learn, umpteen million different, instruments while I'm trying to figure out what to do. It just, I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's absolutely bonkers to me that people put so much faith in AI. Oh my God, yeah. Well, that means they had to start learning. That means they actually had to do the work. And everybody, doom says, it's like, oh, every job's going to be Chat GPT. No, it's not. Every job's not going to be AI. Because AI is dumb. You're going to hurt yourself by focusing on it. Even streamers have to have a certain level of intelligence. Most people think that streaming is just, the time in front of the camera and, in front of the mic. I'm sorry to tell you, but I spend an hour a day before my streams watching videos on YouTube so that I have something to talk about on stream. So that's already 3 hours because I stream for 2. I'm watching a video 3. Then I post this video on YouTube after a certain amount of time, and I still have to edit it because I do some editing. I don't do a whole lot because I think people are here to hear me talk, not necessarily for the gameplay. I could be wrong, but my best days are days like this. So take that with a grain of salt or whatever you want to call it. So I do that, and then I have to upload it, which takes time. There's a lot of effort that goes in. Some people put so much effort into finding unblockers and AI that if they put the same effort into the school, they would go above and beyond. Exactly. Well, exactly. You know, it's like, yeah, I play games every once in a while, but I almost always try to play a game that I can pause. You know, like I played Dead by Daylight a couple of times on my stream, but it's not something that I play a lot of because it's a lot harder to stop and talk to people. You know, and I know I could get a whole lot more followers if I just played more DBD, but I wouldn't have the connection with the community. You know, that's why I play some of the, you know, the creepier games, because I can stop and talk. I can do that. And I love doing that. But it is that time.